welcome to the Essentially You podcast. Debra Atkinson, how are you doing today, girl?
I'm so good. I'm better because I'm here with you.
Oh, me too. Goodness knows. I know you and I have both been cooped up in our houses along with everyone else in the world. And it's so good to get to see you. And I am so excited to have this conversation. I mean, the second that you emailed me, I was thinking, I am looking for someone, an amazing expert to speak on this. We're going to be talking about specifically for women in late perimenopause and menopause, when it's hitting the fan, how exercise, metabolism, and hormones, how it all fits together. Because goodness knows we get a lot of misinformation at this age. We're told a lot of things that aren't working for us, and you are the person who's dialed it in. So I'm really excited to have you share your expertise with us today.
Thank you. Can't wait.
Yay. Well, I want to know, this has been such a big part of your journey, such a big part of what you advocate for. What was that defining moment for you when you knew you wanted to support women kind of moving into a phase that felt, like I said, that felt challenging, that felt for women not exactly sure what to do as we enter into midlife and menopause?
Yeah. So I'd been doing this for 29 years, and by default, I'd ended up working with a lot of women who were older. I mean, men and women, right? But women, let's face it, we ask for directions. So probably they're more likely to hire a personal trainer, seek them out, ask the questions. And yet, when I was 49 and I quit my job, safety, security, goodbye, and started an online business. And so I had all this new content I had to learn in order for this to be my platform. Thank God I did at that time, not right now, right? Like everybody else. But it wasn't until I was struggling myself that I realized how much needed this was for this niche of people, because there I was in the middle of my life with, a young son and aging parent and influencing so many people. And we have that. Every single woman in midlife has that same opportunity. So it's the realization that, there's no one more influential, I think, in healthcare and health habits, let's say that, than a midlife woman. She's influencing 3 generations. And so the knowledge that I'm in it, I'm doing this, but I'm just this little pebble in a pond. And if we can get more women to take better care of themselves, the result of that and the ripple effect is so, so great.
I love that, because it really speaks into generational legacy for our family's health and well-being. And I think women really lead the charge when it comes to that level of legacy for our families. And if women can dial it in, especially in their late 40s and their 50s and beyond, we really have an opportunity to pass down those habits, those lifestyle changes with the people that matter most to us.
So great. And I think we really have to share that message, because for those women who find it really easy to serve everybody else in their universe and not so much be able to dedicate that time and self-care to themselves, when they think of it in that way, that I'm having a big impact, no matter what I do or don't do, I'm having an impact on so many people. I think that's what will drive it home to being able to take care of ourselves and be able to say, this is not selfish. This is mandatory.
I agree. And I just want to bring in my mama as an example of this. My mom was really struggling in her late 40s. Everything hit the fan, like so many women, and ended up on, bioidenticals, ended up on hormone replacement, and really didn't ultimately serve her. Was able to get off and start to put some really healthy lifestyle changes. But one of her big life's goals is that she always wanted to run a marathon. Now I recognize we're going to be talking about the real kind of exercise today. And I know that sometimes running a lot doesn't always serve, but it was really exciting to see my mom go from someone who probably couldn't run more than 3 miles, train for a marathon. And for her, it's her favorite way to escape. It's her favorite way to let things go, de-stress. She's now run 75 plus marathons and half marathons since then. And I won't say, she doesn't ever want me telling people how old she is, but this was like 9 years ago. I should say, we'll just put that there. 8 years ago, 7 years ago. And it's been so, it may not be my preferred choice of working out, especially for my hormones. And I've had those conversations with my mama. But what really matters is that she's inspired me in such a big way. She looks great. She loves it. She has a great time doing it. And, it really speaks to what's possible. Even though intelligently I know it's possible, to see my mom do it and to see her do it with such ease and grace, what it looks like, further down the road for me, it just inspires me. And so I wanted to just share that. Like, I feel that inspiration from her, even though this is what I do for a living,
Yeah. Oh gosh. I think you have to have that real story, the thing that's, the witness and the testimony for you that what is possible. But I think you hit the nail on the head. I think, eventually this will come out that long distance endurance exercise is probably not going to be the number one thing we'd recommend, but she's got joy doing it. You brought that up several times as you were telling that story, and that is really the difference. So not necessarily seeking something because, oh, that's the biggest calorie burner or that's the biggest fat burner, but because all of a sudden this is giving you joy and confidence in a way you didn't have it, and now you just love it. And it's like, if you can do it that way and then decide when it stops being fun, then I'm done, I'll move on to something else, that serve you very well.
I agree. Absolutely. Now, I do want to shift gears because I love the idea of women stepping into their power, moving their bodies, really taking care of their bodies and leaving that legacy for their family and inspiring their kids, their grandkids, for what's possible. But I do want to speak to what type of exercise, because even though I'm not yet in late perimenopause and menopause, I have burned myself to the ground exercising, thinking that was the way to do it, thinking that if I just over exercise, if I just do more HIIT training, if I just do more TRX, if I just run more sprints, if I just take another spin class, that I'm going to get the job done. And what ends up happening, at least, and it depends on the person, I get that. But for me, I've walked out of workout classes at like 3:00 or noon, and everything's gone. Whatever I had in the tank is gone. Like, the rest of my day is shot. And that's not how we're supposed to feel after working out. And then the repercussions of that is the scale doesn't move. You don't feel more toned, like nothing's moving.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes the scale goes up.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen that too.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Too closely. Yeah.
So talk to us about the concerns, especially, the tumultuousness of hormones fluctuating and shifting, especially in perimenopause and menopause, and how that translates to, affecting the type of exercise we do, and also affecting our metabolism. Most women would tell you that their metabolism is broken at that particular age.
Yeah. Probably one of the most common reasons that people come to me, women will come to me in midlife, and it's like, I've gained weight, and that's nothing new. So maybe they've gained weight, lost weight throughout their lives, 20s, 30s, 40s. Okay, I gained weight. Here's what I'll do. That's not working anymore. Those old tricks, not working anymore. And either not budging the scale at all, or no matter what they do, they're continuing to gain. And that's where they're really willing to listen and pay more attention to, okay, a different answer this time. I can't go back to that same old, same old. So, we approach it in two ways. So one, we've got to look at the overall stress level, what's going on with stress from all sources, not just from exercise. But I think we probably need to say that and then repeat it. Exercise is stress.
Yes, please.
Is stress. But every woman here is also probably watching, well, most of them, right? All of you who love exercise are watching saying, no, you don't understand. That's how I negate my stress. I have to exercise so I can negate my stress. And I get that too, but there is the Goldilocks. So that's what we're looking for. Not too much and not too little. And it's different. It's different for you. It's different for me. It's different for your mom. And we've got to find where is that. And then it's like course correct constantly. When you're in menopause, It's not what it was last year. It potentially isn't what it was 3 months ago. So that course correction has a lot to do with, can you listen? Are you really listening to the messages your body's sending you? And if you do feel like you walk out of that class at noon and you could take a nap, it's too much. Somehow everything on your plate is too much. So we're in this perfect moment right now where women in midlife and menopause are just like anybody else. We're dealing with changes and some uncertainty in our lives. We may be cocooning and nesting at home and be okay with that in theory, but there is, some of us want to see somewhere down the road, and we can't. We don't know really what's coming. So that puts a little unease in all of us. We've got a little stress, and we've got to just factor that in. And I really hate it when we're all tuning in and we're hearing, oh, we know you're stressed. And I don't think we need to beat that, because you may be handling it just fine, but you do need to give yourself a little grace that there is this little extra thing here. So whatever your exercise was in January and February before COVID even was a thing, you need to consciously think about, how do I, now that I've got more stress over here, how do I back off of that a little bit more, be smarter about my exercise choices? Because we've got to keep cortisol down, or monitor it so it's correct. High when it should be high, low when it should be low, and then talk about, how do we bump that muscle up so that we can boost metabolism overall? Because you can't have both. If your cortisol is up, you can't ignore it and say, I'm just going to go for the muscle and the fat burning, and then chips will fall. But they won't. You'll fall.
I agree 100%. I think it's important that we bring that up. And how is this interconnected with metabolism? I think some women are not really seeing the connection of, like, working out should fix my metabolism, should help to rev up my metabolism. But we know the stress component, the cortisol component, even the cortisol insulin component can really not work in our favor when we're feeling stressed. Can you speak to me a little bit about connecting the dots when it comes to our metabolism?
For sure. So looking at it from the cortisol standpoint, so looking at what are your factors pointing to stress. So if you're going to exercise, here's the way we optimally want to use stress. So using acute cortisol, kind of a hit, right? So you're going to use, and that's like pun intended. So getting a hit of it, but also getting high intensity interval training is one of the best ways to do it. So you get a little fix of boost and burst that cortisol. It's going to peak while you're exercising. But what happens in the aftermath is, if you elevate that cortisol appropriately during exercise for a short time, it comes down, and that counter lull in cortisol is what helps you relax and rest. And it's kind of like you've got this angst and you need to scream or yell or shout and exercise and get it out. And then you can calm down and relax. And that's perfect use during exercise of your cortisol. But if that's not happening, or you're already too stressed and that cortisol comes up during exercise and it never goes down, because you might be doing two things: exercising too long, too hard, combining all the things you think are good because more is better. That mentality gets us in trouble. Or you're doing late day exercise where cortisol should be coming down. So you're trying to exercise and there's no cortisol there to use. So your body does that little steal, and pregnenolone then can be used to make cortisol for the energy you need to exercise, but then it's not there later so that you can get to sleep. And your metabolism is helped a great deal during sleep, because we've got more growth hormone being produced. If you get into those deep cycles of sleep, your testosterone is being taken care of. If you're getting quality sleep, we need those things for muscle. So all the things you're doing in the gym, the strength training and the high intensity interval training, may not pay off for you if you've got cortisol going wonky and you're tipping that scale such that you're not able to get enough sleep and do the rewarding hormone benefit that you need in order to make the exercise truly work. So that's kind of the way you might be blocking your metabolism, even if you're doing the exercise.
Okay, so it can affect us either where cortisol is being overused, or we're finding ourselves it's having an effect where we've got that wired and tired, that mental chatter at night. We can't go to sleep. Our circadian rhythms are off, and that's throwing off our metabolism as well.
Exactly.
And one of the things you mentioned, besides working too hard, is exercising too hard is also exercising too long. And
Yes.
speak to me about what is and I know it can vary from person to person, but what have you found to be that optimal exercise zone?
Yeah, great question. So there's two things we should probably look at. So HIIT, high intensity interval training, has been around long enough. I think that all of us can agree it's not a fad anymore. It's here to stay. And there's so much great research that says, for the women we're talking to, probably for any woman, but the women in midlife, who maybe haven't even gained weight, but their weight has shifted, and it's like, that wasn't here yesterday, and there's belly fat there, and I can't get rid of it. So belly fat moves best from high intensity interval training. So short little sprints of it. So by that, 15 or 20 minutes of intervals, sandwiched or bookended by a great warm up, great cool down. So your whole session may be 30 minutes, but you're not looking to do a full hour and leave you as toast or a puddle on the floor. You want to leave actually feeling good. And if you're not used to doing high intensity interval training, it'll feel very different. It'll feel like you did potentially too little, because although you're working really hard for short periods of time, you're not just wasted in toast. And that's the difference between, cortisol elevating and staying up and kind of infringing on your adrenals, which are those things that are going to make you feel like, I want to take a nap. I could lay down. I have to couch compensate. That's what I call it. So what we want to do is just elevate that cortisol, in 15 to 20 minutes at a time, 2 or 3 times a week is ideal. Now you're going to do some other things in there as well. But if you start tipping that over 45 minutes a week, that's where we start to see injury rates climb. And when you look at injury rates and the use of high intensity interval training, injury rates skyrocketed like 544% over the time that HIIT became popular, because everybody's using it, but everybody's using it all the time. And that's really not the best way to use something. So the other piece is endurance training. How much of that do you need? Really, we don't need very much at all. And if you're a woman in midlife, you may want to get rid of it. But what we're trying to get rid of is what I call no benefits zone. So it's in the middle. And there's this myth we've all heard, you should get moderate exercise. And that term is thrown around so much that at the beginning of COVID, I did a full webinar on this, talking about, what do we really know about exercise and an immune system? And the biggest benefits actually come from doing interval training, so short, high intensity, and then things like walking. It's like just lower level, low to moderate level, but it's in that middle range where that's where you're just getting that heart rate drift. It's where you're going for longer periods of time than 75 minutes is about the tipping point. So if you're going longer than 75 minutes, hour 15, cortisol, instead of coming up and then coming down afterward, continues to go up. So it doesn't give you that positive fix of relaxation. It's more, you might be flat for a day or two and not be able to exercise at all, which is really counter to what we want, right? We want energy.
Absolutely. And so that's for walking. So if we're walking for an hour and 15, that's too much.
No, so if you're going a little harder than that, if you're walking at a fast pace or you're jogging, and you can insert any endurance kind of activity, but if you're at that middle range where you're breathing fairly hard, and it's definitely a run where I could talk, but I could talk only between breaths, and it's really changing your exertion level. that's where you get in trouble. If you're out, you're going for a long walk or a hike at a lower level and you're enjoying it, you're okay.
Okay. Got it. I just wanted to just make sure I was clarity on that to see the time zone and what exactly that looked like in that time frame. Speak to me about, because I know a lot of people feel like endurance running, endurance training is really good for them. I'm so glad that you've given us clarity there. Speak to me about weightlifting, because for me, that has been a real big game changer with an autoimmune condition like Hashimoto's thyroiditis. One of the recommendations for me was cut a lot of the endurance training out entirely and really focus on weight training. And I know for women in midlife, definitely the concern around osteoporosis, keeping muscle mass, like any type of muscle tone is super important. What are some of the recommendations around that?
Absolutely. So strength training probably needs to get to number one in your priority list. When you're planning your exercise week, put your strength training in there first, because you want to strategically plan that not only for the workouts, but for the rest between. Because what we know is twice a week of strength training can actually be more beneficial than 3 times a week if you need that extra recovery time. And a lot of us after the age of 40 do. And that's not a statement that, you're able to work out less or you're delicate. It's just this recovery period where the muscle is getting repaired and getting stronger. And basically, instead of just compensating and getting repaired to where it was, it actually gets stronger. So that's when you have the fitness happen. So the workout, the exercise gives you the opportunity for fitness, but the fitness actually happens in the rest and recovery between. So it's important to remember that. Put those in first, and then put in the things like high intensity interval training around them, and then slip in those low to moderate intensity exercises that you love. You love to go hiking, you love to golf and walk the course. Put those in anywhere that you still have the energy and all the signs that you're sleeping well, that you have a good appetite, not an outrageous one, but not lots of cravings. All of those signs are telling you you're in your sweet spot for exercise. And it's slightly different for everybody, but strength training is the number one way to boost metabolism. So it's a payoff that happens long term. So at the end of the year, if you and I wanted to have a higher metabolism, strength training right now until the end of the year would be the smartest thing that we do. So we're not saying don't do any cardio, don't do any intervals, but minimize it. If we said, okay, tomorrow morning we're going to work out, what's going to burn the most calories during 30 minutes? It's going to be high intensity interval training. But in the long run, that doesn't matter, because it's really like cocaine. You have to get another hit of that for that to do you good. If you're strength training during that 30 minutes, we're not going to burn as many calories, but what we are doing is helping your body burn more calories for 24 hours. So imagine doing that over and over, twice a week, all the rest of the year. You're increasing also the amount of lean muscle tissue you have. That's metabolically active tissue, and fat is not.
So true. Thank you. Thank you for giving clarification there. I had a good feeling that the strength training was really the best option for many of us, especially as we moved into our 40s and 50s and beyond. Now, a lot of women are, also a lot of questions that I get are specifically around food too. And is there a time after working out or before working out that we should focus on our meals?
Before and after, both can be really important, and it kind of depends a little bit on body type. So we can address, if you're somebody who's been lean and you're petite and really maybe in your midlife and older, it's hard for you to put on weight and you don't want to lose any more weight, and that's not your goal. You actually may do best doing something with a high protein quality snack before your workout, as well as consciously having a good high protein quality smoothie or a meal if it's positioned right for you timing wise after. So for what I call hard gainers, right? And the older we get, more and more of us are going to fall into that category. So you at 70 is going to probably have some different needs for fueling before and after exercise than we do before we're, 50. But protein is going to be one of the most important things that you're conscious of. And that's not to negate the rest. We need tons of vegetables. We need healthy fruits, at the right timing. But getting protein as the building blocks of muscle, that's going to make a huge difference. And we have a reduced muscle protein synthesis as we age. So you know this, but if we are talking to a woman who's watching and she is 55, you don't synthesize the same amount of protein, meaning take that protein from meals that you eat and use it for the good of your body and repairing those muscles the same way you did 10 or 20 years ago. So in dietary means, you're going to want to eat a little bit more protein than you might have been used to when you were younger. That's news to a lot of women who might think, well, I don't need that anymore. I don't exercise that much, or I'm not that athletic. You actually need it more the more sedentary you are. Athletes or just athletic and very active women synthesize protein better than someone who's sedentary. So you're really helping yourself out simply by getting off the couch and becoming active.
That makes so much sense. And I appreciate that. The protein intake definitely is something that we need to be told plenty of times. And then the other question I had, and I should have asked this earlier, but I know I get this question a lot, is what time of the day? When do I get in where I fit in on exercise, or should I try to aim for the morning? Should I try to aim at noon? What is the best time, especially specifically around if we're being mindful of our hormones?
Yeah, great question. So this it fit in earlier, and we need to myth bust a little bit right here, because the question has always been, what's the best time of day to exercise? And the answer in many cases was the time you'll do it, right? And I'm sure all of us have heard that, we've read it. That changes in midlife. So the best time to do a certain type of exercise and stick with that. So if you're doing high intensity exercise early in the day is best, because that's when naturally your cortisol, which is, yes, your stress hormone, but it's also our energy hormone. So if you're already elevated, then exercise doesn't take it up an inordinate amount, an amount that's going to harm us. And that means that late in the day, we get that decrease in cortisol that helps us chill, relax, and get to sleep and get a great night's sleep. So intense early, light late is a tenet of flipping 50. And that means to all people who are listening who are saying, well, I can't get it in early. I don't want to have to get up at, dark 100 and fit it in before work. Then allow yourself the grace not to do high intensity on those days. Save your weekends. Use them really wisely. And do your late day light. Take a walk, do yoga. You might be able to get by with doing strength training later in the day because it doesn't quite rev you up the same way high intensity interval training does. But also be thinking that, or rethinking that you don't have time. Because in the past, you may have thought, well, I need 45 minutes or I need an hour or it's not worth it. And we know now that even 10 minutes or 20 minutes of interval training, and you got to do a warm up in there, ladies, so you can't skip that. But even those little bits rev your metabolism up, and they'll give you more clarity, focus, concentration all day long if you've done them in the morning versus waiting. So rethink that. You don't have time in the morning.
I love that. Okay, great. That makes so much sense. So definitely save the walk, save the little hike for later in the day, get the strength training and the HIIT training done earlier in the day.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yay. Awesome. And not every day.
And not every day. Yeah.
And not every day. That's what I'm hearing as well.
Right. Twice a week. So Monday, Thursday, strength training, Tuesday, Friday, maybe your interval training, save your long walks and hikes for the weekend, do yoga in the afternoon, you're set.
I love that. I love the little schedule too, because I know so often people are trying to figure out, what does that schedule look like? What can that look like for me? And especially when you have all these different things that you can do, mixing it up, whether it's a hike or it's yoga or it's strength training or it's a little bit of HIIT training, like you really do have a lot of variety as well, so that you're not getting bored. And when you kind of dial in what you love, you can kind of focus on those things that you love as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that schedule, just to come back to, the moment we're in right now, putting that schedule, literally in your planner, wherever you keep that, if you can anchor those things, I think that's been a key point for a lot of people who all of a sudden they don't have a commute. All of a sudden they don't have, I have to be in the shower and then out of the shower. I think we're all on Zoom, so there's still showers and we still have to get dressed. But, lunch is different, dinner is different. Everything is off a little bit because there aren't school, there aren't those time. And exercise can kind of serve as that anchor for you at the beginning and the end of the day. And it's been a huge help for a lot of our Flipping 50 community members.
I love that. That makes so much sense. Like, calendar it in, have it in your phone, even if you're not, because none of us are going to the gym,
Right.
at the moment, but there's so many things that we can do at home, so many ways that we can make it work. Clearly, there's a lot of different videos. You've got so many wonderful videos. And one of the videos I'm super excited to share with everybody is your TEDx talk that you did last fall, which is, I don't know if we covered everything today. I know there's going to be even more to look at and to see inside of the TEDx, but the topic was why everything women in menopause learned about exercise may be a lie. And I know that we debunked a couple of those myths today, but I know that you really get into the nitty gritty in this TED Talk, which I'm super excited. And congratulations, girl.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I've been waiting for it. Yes, but I'm so glad it's out. So many women, I think they're the only ones when exercise isn't working. I think the real message when you watch that is you're not doing anything wrong. It's not about a lack of willpower or lack of discipline. The system, the fitness industry actually may have been sending you the wrong message.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. I mean, in the fitness industry, for a while was really built for men. We really didn't take women into consideration at all.
Right.
We started making that pivot, but we haven't taken women at every age and every kind of cycle of our life into consideration. And when you look at things like Instagram and Facebook and, people look a certain kind of way and you're thinking like, that's the way to do it. I know for me. And then, or you have the mindset like so many women have, is like, if it doesn't hurt, if you're not working hard enough, you're not going to reap the rewards of it. And we really need to change those stigmas and those myths around exercise for women so that it's healthy and it's actually effective for them. And I think that you've done such a marvelous job at highlighting how women can create effective workouts that are filled with ease and grace. Now, Debra, honey, where can we find more of you?
You can find me at flipping50.com, all words spelled out, no numbers.
Wonderful. I know you're on YouTube too, girl.
Oh, yeah. Flipping 50 TV, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. Yes.
Love it. Well, I want to say thank you so much for clearing the air around a lot of misconceptions that women are holding on to, because we just didn't know. We see it, we just get a lot of the wrong information. And for giving us, laying out a type of schedule, laying out the amount of time, laying out how to really have cortisol be in our benefit versus be in our detriment. Yes. So I just really feel grateful to you for laying it all out for us today.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. My pleasure.